What if I told you the thing you've been warned about your entire life is actually the very thing the wealthy use to build empires? Think about it. From a young age, most of us were taught that debt is dangerous. Our parents, teachers, and even financial gurus on TV all said the same thing: stay out of debt. And for good reason. For the average person, debt really does feel like a trap. Credit cards pile up, student loans haunt you for decades, and mortgages keep you chained to monthly payments that never seem to end. Debt, for most people, is like quicksand. The harder you struggle, the deeper you sink. But here's the twist. For the wealthy, debt isn't quicksand at all. It's a ladder. It's a lever. It's the tool they use to climb faster and higher than anyone else. The shocking truth, the difference isn't the existence of debt, it's how it's used. And once you see this, you'll realize that debt isn't always the enemy. Sometimes, it can actually be the key to freedom. Let's start with the basics. For most people, debt equals consumption. You borrow money to buy things that lose value, like cars, clothes, vacations, or gadgets. These are called liabilities. They drain your pocket instead of filling it. But the rich? They borrow money to buy things that make money. Assets. Things like real estate, businesses, or investments that produce income. Here's a simple example. Imagine two people. Person A takes out a $30,000 loan for a brand new luxury car. Every month, they're on the hook for payments, interest, insurance, and maintenance. That debt is eating their money. Person B takes out the same $30,000 loan, but instead uses it to put a down payment on a small rental property. Sure, they owe money, but now the tenant pays rent every month. The rent covers the loan payment and even leaves some profit left over. In one case, debt is a weight. In the other, it's a motor. That's the first big difference. The poor use debt to buy liabilities. The rich use debt to buy assets. Now, let's go deeper. The second big difference, leverage. Most people think, I'll save up until I can afford it. Sounds smart, right? But saving alone is slow, painfully slow. The rich don't wait decades to accumulate cash. They use leverage, borrowing money to multiply their opportunities. Imagine you've got $500,000. If you just buy one property in cash, that's it. You own a single property. But if you use that same $500,000 as down payments, you could buy 5 properties worth $500,000 each. Now, instead of one property growing in value, you have 5. If each property goes up just 10%, that's not $50,000 in gains, it's $250,000. Same money, bigger result. That's leverage. It's like using a lever to move a boulder. The lever doesn't change the weight, it changes what you can do with it. This is why wealthy investors never just pay cash. They let their money stretch further by using other people's money. The third big difference, tax strategy. This is where it gets interesting. Most people think of debt as something you pay off with your income. You earn, pay taxes, and then whatever's left goes to debt. But the rich, they flip it. Let's take real estate as an example. In many countries, the interest you pay on loans for investment properties can be written off against income. That means your debt payments actually reduce your taxable income. Even more powerful, billionaires often never sell their assets. Why? Because selling creates taxable income. Instead, they walk into a bank, use their assets as collateral, and borrow against them. If Elon Musk sells Tesla stock to buy a house or fund a project, he owes taxes on the sale. But if he borrows against the stock, he gets the cash without triggering a tax bill. To the government, that's not income. It's debt. And debt isn't taxed. That's why you hear about billionaires paying almost nothing in income tax. They're not cheating the system. They're using it. When the average person thinks of debt, they think of stress. A loan feels like a burden, something they want to escape as quickly as possible. But the rich see debt as a tool, a form of partnership. Banks and lenders aren't enemies, they're allies. Take real estate moguls like Donald Trump or Sam Zell. They've built billions in wealth, not by paying for everything in cash, but by convincing banks to fund their projects. They see lenders as partners who provide the capital so the project can exist in the first place. And once you start seeing it that way, the whole world looks different, because suddenly, debt isn't a dead end. It's an open door. But let's pause, because I know what you might be thinking. That all sounds great, but I'm not a millionaire. How does this help me? Here's the truth. You don't need to be rich to think like the rich. You just need to apply the same principles on a smaller scale. If you're going into debt, ask yourself, will this put money back in my pocket, or will it just drain me? Using a credit card for a designer bag? That's a liability. Taking out a loan to buy equipment that helps you start a side business? That could be an asset. Financing a car that loses value? Liability. Using a mortgage to buy a duplex where one unit pays for the other? That's leverage. The principle doesn't change, only the scale does. And here's where the reflection comes in. Because this isn't really about debt, it's about freedom. Every dollar you spend on bad debt is time you'll never get back. Every dollar you put into good debt is time you've just bought back from the future. Think about that. The average person spends decades working just to pay off liabilities. But the rich use debt to shorten that time, to create cash flow that buys them more freedom. This is why you hear phrases like, the rich get richer. It's not always because they're smarter. It's because they're playing by a different set of rules most of us were never taught. And the truth is, debt is one of those rules. Misunderstand it, and it will crush you. Master it, and it will carry you further than you ever imagined. So maybe the real question isn't, how do the rich use debt differently from me? Maybe the real question is, what could my life look like if I learned to use debt the way they do? Imagine walking into a bank, not with fear, but with a plan. Imagine borrowing money, not because you're trapped in a crisis, but because you've spotted an opportunity, a chance to grow something bigger than yourself. Imagine using a loan to buy a property that pays you back month after month, long after the ink has dried on the contract. Imagine taking on debt to fund a business idea that creates jobs, solves problems, and puts money into your pocket instead of taking it out. Imagine a version of your life where money isn't shrinking every month, where every dollar you borrow turns into 2, or 3, or 10, where debt isn't a weight on your shoulders, but a pair of wings that helps you rise above the cycle of just working, paying, and surviving. Think about what that would mean for your choices. The ability to say yes or no, not because of fear, but because you actually have the freedom to choose. Think about what it would mean for your time, the most valuable asset you'll ever own. What if you could buy your time back, one smart decision at a time? That's the shift. That's the difference. That's what separates the way most people see debt from the way the wealthy use it. So here's the challenge. Next time you face debt, don't just ask, can I afford the payments? That's the question the system wants you to ask. Instead, ask yourself, will this debt make me richer or poorer? Will it take time away from me, or will it buy my time back? Because at the end of the day, debt is just a tool. And like any tool, a hammer, a knife, a flame, it can build or it can destroy. In the wrong hands, it tears lives apart. In the right hands, it builds futures. It creates freedom. It changes generations. The real difference isn't in the tool. The difference is in the hands that use it. So, what if your money actually worked for you instead of against you? Maybe it's time to rethink how you see debt. Maybe it's time to stop fearing it and start mastering it. Because once you learn the rules, you'll realize the game was never about avoiding debt. The game was about using it. And once you start playing that game, the way the wealthy do, the future will never look the same again.